Welcome to another episode of California Saltwater Fishing. Today we are on the Triton out of LA waterfront sport fishing. This is our second video on the Triton. We did one last year called Hoop Dreams, where we were with Western Outdoor News, as we are again this trip. There are the 10 traps for the 10 anglers, and that's what the fishing game allows us to take out. For people, the maximum per boat is 10 traps. So we have that ready to go. As you can see, it's a beautiful day here in early December 2022. Beautiful weather, beautiful conditions, barely any wind, and just enough clouds to make the horizon look interesting. As we head out towards the Long Beach breakwater on our way towards Catalina Island. And Catalina is one of the most productive areas for spiny lobster in the California area. So we're going to make the most of our proximity towards the island. Just hanging out in the galley, chatting with some of the folks on our way out. It took about 2 hours or so to make it to the island. We left around noon and got to the island just about 2 o'clock. Headed towards the Two Harbors area on the on the west end, I should say, of Catalina Island. The other end of the island is where you have Avalon. This is where we have the Two Harbors area. A little less boat traffic out here, and if you see this place in the middle of summertime, it looks quite a bit different. So right now there's hardly anybody out. And we made our drop on this one reef. It was about 200 or so feet deep. And this one fish that I pull up here was the largest fish for me for the trip. Most of the fish that you run into out here are a little bit on the smaller side in these shallows. But then again, we're just kind of, killing time while we're waiting for the sun to start going down before we can throw the lobster pots in the water. And I've got my acid wrap goofish stick here. I know it looks small, but it's a pretty mighty little machine, and it's able to pull up fish quite a bit bigger than you would think. Today we wouldn't really be challenged too much given what we were running into out there. But this one tree fish that I'll pull up, as you see, is a decent sized tree fish. And it's probably the darkest colored tree fish I've ever encountered. And I've pulled up many over my time. I was very surprised to see it, because when I first saw it come up in the water, I wasn't quite sure what it was because it was so dark and had such unique colorations. Typically they're a bit lighter, more of a light green color with some dark stripes. This one was a pretty much uniform sort of charcoal color with the dark stripes, and usually they have bright pink or orange lips, so sometimes that's why they get the name lipstick fish, because of that. But this one didn't have that at all, so it was pretty dark, pretty different, pretty unusual. I'm not sure why that is. There was another guy that caught one that looked similar to it too, so must just be something in this region, some sort of coloration that they use based on their environment for camouflage. And it was a decent sized fish. I can't complain. Of course, it would have been nice to get a few more along that size, but as I said, we're just kind of out here taking what we can get while we're waiting for the lobster to start going on the crawl and send out the traps for that. So that should be coming over the rail here in just a minute, and you can get an idea of what I'm talking about in terms of the coloration of this fish. So there we go, getting enough line up to effectively bounce the fish over.
Nice tree fish.
And there you can see, nice dark colored rockfish on the deck and ready to go into the bag. And I did end up catching a few more rockfish. Most of them were smaller size, smaller models than that previous one. As you'll see on this drop, 2 more rockfish will come over. These are the type that I do like to use for soup. I have a recipe on the channel if you'd like to check it out for fish chowder. And a big part of what makes that chowder so good, of course, is the stock that you use. And it's best to make fresh fish stock whenever you have a chance. So I like to use these smaller rockfish basically whole, so just gill and gut, and scale them and then throw them into the pot and make the stock from there. And these guys do a good job of doing that. I know they're smaller fish, but typically when coming up out of this depth, they are a bit embolized, so you don't necessarily want to throw them back because there's a good chance that they're not going to survive, or the sea lions are just going to get them before they make it on their way down. So I do keep these ones, even though they're a little bit more on the smaller side. Of course, if we were on a bigger trip going after the rockfish, these would definitely not be the type that you'd keep. If anything, you might send them back down and hope that a lingcod jumps on them on the way back up. So I was using size 4 J hooks. These were short shanked J hooks. Like to use these because you do run into quite a bit of whitefish in this sort of area. So the whitefish and sheephead and that sort of thing have smaller mouths, and even though the rockfish have bigger mouths, they'll still take a smaller hook. And I do like these hooks in particular, just because they have a nice wide eye on them, and that's something that you want to look for with your dropper loop hooks, is a hook with a nice wide eye that makes it easy to run the line through. Otherwise, it's a lot of work to get it through a tighter eye hole. And here we are on another drop. I believe this is the same reef that we were fishing off of where the last two came up, one of the more productive reefs of the day. Most of the fish that came up were the smaller size variety. However, there were a couple of nice sheephead and sculpin and rockfish that some folks caught. As I mentioned, the biggest one I got this day was that one tree fish, but some other folks definitely had some decent models that came over the side as well. But as mentioned before, this is just a part of the trip. It's not, we didn't come out here just for the fishing. Definitely the lobster is the main attraction, is the headliner, so to speak, and these are just the featuring acts on the way to the headline. And came up with a nice honeycomb here. And this is my first time getting drive-through service at the galley. So you'll see this hand reach out from the galley. One of the deckhands was more than happy to help take this fish off the hook for me, which was great service. You know, these guys were very awesome on the Triton, very fun crew, fun bunch of guys helping you out. And he got the hook off for me and took the fish back to the bag. Great service. So yeah, it was pretty funny. All of a sudden I hear a voice coming out the window willing to help, and it's the first time I've ever had drive-through service, and it was pretty cool to see that. So once we got that fish on board, soon after that we started to motor towards where we would drop the nets. And there's one of the fellow anglers, and she got a nice sculpin as well as a nice rockfish there. So to everyone checking out their catches on the way to drop the nets and start that for the night. So we got the nets out a bit before sundown to catch the lobster as they start to begin their crawl for the night. And there's a nice shot of two harbors, and you can see how tranquil and beautiful the evenings can be off of the west end of Catalina out here. And we had our nets starting to get pulled up. Everybody pulls in order as you sign in. So the first angler to sign in pulls the first pot, and then on through all 10 of us. I believe that this was either 2 or 3 getting pulled up here. And this lucky angler was able to pull up a nice lobster for his efforts. So not bad at all. And here's me pulling up my first pot of the night, the most productive one I had of the bunch. And there were 3 lobsters in total that came out of there. And even if the lobster is big, they're always going to measure them just to make sure, because you don't want to take any chances with the fishing game. It's not worth it. So we also want to make sure that everyone plays by the rules. So we measured them up, and the first one meets the meter, and the second one, which was the larger one, also meets the meter. And then on the third one, it was a little bit short. So you'll see here as the deckhand pulls it up and he takes a measurement on it, that there's a bit of play in the gauge. And if there's any sort of movement in the gauge between the shell and the gauge, then it's too short and it's got to go back. So hopefully we'll come back next season, be able to pick that up and take it from there. And a couple of the other fellas coming back with their catches. So this is one of the larger lobsters. I didn't want to reach in there and grab the guy's lobster, but you can get a sense of the size of that one in there too. Probably the biggest one on the boat. And then we had another lucky angler who was coming back with his catch. The first drop definitely did the best for us. I believe for the night we had 19 or 20 lobsters that came up in total. That was just about 2 per piece for most folks, although, you know, some folks didn't get any. A couple of the guys who did get more than 2 shared their catch, just to make sure that everybody went home with at least one, which was a nice thing to do, because it really is luck of the draw, not so much angling prowess as it is you just had a good number in line and you were able to make the most of it. So a couple of guys having fun taking pics, and there's Debbie, she did a great job too. Barbara, sorry. And one of the deckhands got hit pretty hard by one of these lobsters, and he'll describe what he went through here in just a moment.
That's a female. It's pregnant.
I didn't think they were supposed to take them.
That's the pack.
See the antennas, how they go back?
Yeah.
That's how that happened.
Oh, it whipped
That
you.
right there was done by that.
By the pictures?
Yeah. I tell you, see 2 of them.
Yeah.
They really dig into those things.
God damn, dude. Talons.
Oh, good.
That's a beauty, though.
Female.
Female?
Yeah.
You can tell by the leg.
Yeah, but the last claw.
Oh.
She has 2.
Oh,
2.
okay.
The males only have 1. This one has 2.
Gotcha. Nice. Son of a bitch, man.
And here I am on my last pull of the night, and this one was nothing but net. And by this point, you're pretty tired in the night after pulling up all these traps all day. So I definitely got a good nap on the way back into the harbor. Hope you guys enjoyed the footage. Hope you guys enjoyed what you saw. Definitely give the guys on the Triton a try if you'd like to get out and try your hand at grabbing some lobster. But until then, make sure you keep those lines tight, and hope to see you out on the deck sometime. And leave your comments and like if you can, and subscribe if you haven't already. And until then, have a good one. Thanks so much for joining us.